What's up? We're back. Wasn't here last week, but we're back with another good installment of a live coding session with me. This time, I don't have a human guest. I do have my two little minions. I took my kids to McDonald's. They had Happy Meals, and they're giving out those little minions, so they're pretty cool. So, just a reminder, everybody. This is part of the Believe in Serverless community. Let me drop a link. If you are not in there and you would like to join, this is the link to our Discord. So make sure this is where you would be able to stay up to date with everything. And we do have a good amount of sessions lined up for everybody. So let me share the Discord. All the events are scheduled on Discord. There's a public calendar for everybody. But next week we'll have Sam Locke talking about IAM Policy Simulator, and then that next day after that we'll have Sandro talking about GraphQL. That's always exciting. I started playing around with that a little bit, and we keep going. There's a lot of sessions already scheduled, and we keep scheduling more and more. So a lot of good stuff happening. So make sure to look at that, as well as our Believe in Serverless webpage, believeinserverless.com. And we have our calendar up here. So we have our calendar here, so make sure to take a look at that. You can subscribe, get notified anything that's happening, anything scheduled, just to be up to date to everything that we're doing. Remember, all that we're doing is here for you, and me. Selfishly, I'm learning a lot from these sessions. The good thing is they're all recorded on YouTube, so we can always go back and look at those. But what are we doing today? So I saw a tweet. Let me pull it back up. Dan Ronald. So a lot of people are not familiar with the capabilities of App Composer, Workflow Studio, and VS Code working all together. So I saw this, Dan Ronald mentioning that he thinks not a lot of people are aware that this can happen. This is based on Lars pointing out that there's improvements happening and all that, right? So I wanted to go through today and just set up something from scratch using App Composer and digging into the Workflow Studio for step functions and just building something out. I'll be honest with you, I've only used the local Workflow Studio. I haven't actually built the application and all the infrastructure locally. So this is going to be a learning experience for all of us, which is why I love to do these, so we can all figure it out together. So let me close Twitter because then I'll get distracted and pop open. I'm just going to start, like I said, I want to start from scratch. And again, yes, PowerShell, Windows, fight me. But what is App Composer? So why don't we start there? And we had a great presentation, and I'll link, let me grab that link. Was it live for, we should see it here, a great presentation around App Composer. That's not the actual presentation, but App Composer presentation. No, no, it's just playing. App Composer, and I'll share it in the links, but a good presentation around the features and what it can do. But we'll go to AWS, this documentation, where App Composer is a tool to build basically your serverless application, and maybe non-serverless, so extending a little bit, application visually, drag and drop, all that fun stuff. So this is Amazon or AWS bought, blanking out on the name, but they bought a company that did this natively, and they kind of modified it and make it work for specifically for AWS. And it's again a drag and drop tool that you can use throughout AWS. And obviously, there's the AWS toolkit that AWS offers to run as an extension in VS Code. So they've added App Composer to the VS Code AWS Toolkit extension. And last year, they also announced, hey, you can open Workflow Studio from App Composer, right, which is the drag and drop interface for step functions, right? And with that, what came together at that point is like, hey, I can actually modify step functions locally. And another capability that App Composer provides is that it syncs to the cloud, right? So I'm a big kind of, hey, develop in the cloud, not locally. Or if you're doing it locally, test it in the cloud, right? Running everything locally has been kind of a hassle. So when they announced that, I was like, hey, I could run or just have my template run Workflow Studio and run SAM sync locally. And as I save changes to my workflow or my infrastructure, it will automatically sync up, right? Based on the template changes, the code changes. So it's been kind of magical. I've played with it purely on the Workflow Studio side. So let's dig around and play around with it for just like let's get an API and all that. Don't worry about the costs. Things are expensive nowadays in the serverless world. So what am I going to do? Why did I open this? Okay, nothing yet, but I'm in the account. Not too much to it. So again, I'm in the PowerShell. I'm just okay. And what are we building? Let me take a step back. If you saw my last stream, it was around using Amped, and we got this little GPS framework, and I'll thank Alan. He came up with that one. It's a kind of a GPS testing. So it provides, and it's something we can follow to build stuff and kind of assess productivity around it. And it makes good sense to test the productivity of building something with App Composer and all that. So the requirements are basically build an API with CRUD and list, right? So CRUD will send events. So let's see if we get to that, sending WebSocket events or maybe GraphQL sync subscriptions, handling data structures and real-time notifications, right? So I want to try to build that from scratch using App Composer and trying to minimize my usage of the console, which is always a big plus for me in my days. If I don't touch the console, I feel like I did a great job. So going back to my PowerShell, I'm just going to create a directory called, what am I going to do? App Composer GPS test. App Composer GPS test. So cd app composer, and let's just open up this folder. It's empty, and let's see where it opens. Okay, and I'll zoom in for y'all. That should be good. So again, empty folder. And I did test a little bit. Again, I like to test things so I can at least know that I'm going to be able to get up and running and not get stuck in the first step. So there's multiple ways you can open App Composer, but all of them require a file already on disk from what I saw. So there's this, right? There's the Control-Shift-P, open template with Application Composer. And if you select this, it'll prompt you for a template, which we don't have. So let me create a file, my template.yaml. And the cool thing here is it doesn't need to have anything. So once I have this here, I can go the route I showed you Once you have a template YAML, you get this icon, which is Open App Composer, or you can right-click the file and open with Application Composer, right? So multiple ways you can get to it. Usually the one I've used is this. So convenient right there. I'm opening at this for this template, and simple to use. So I did see this yesterday. There's a bug that requires you to hold shift while releasing the resource on the, let's see how this is viewable while doing a live stream, but while releasing the resource on the canvas. So make sure if you're using this right now to do that. So again, the first step of this is getting an API, right? So what do I like to use? API gateway. So again, if I don't press shift, you see my other hand's just on the mouse, it doesn't work. So I'll drag, press shift, and now it works once you drop it. So yeah, this is, anybody watching, let me know if this is too small to follow along, and I can zoom, but I just want to make a little bit more space for me in the canvas. So I got an API gateway, and here's the cool nature of it. It's visual, right? So it's just doing some configuration. If I go back to the template, yes, it's already creating resources for me, right? So I dropped, it's automatically syncing with my template locally. So I drop this API, it has a get method, which is here, and it's basically not doing anything. So, I mean, the good thing here is you can go back and modify it if you need it to, but I'm going to try my best not to have to do that. So we got our get method. You can see it has kind of a connector. You can add routes, add CORS configuration, CORS headers. So one thing to note is that there's enhanced components and standard IAC resources. So if you work with step functions, it's kind of similar to saying are they called enhanced as well, or optimized versus not optimized? It means it has extra, basically, text boxes and stuff you can configure, right? So it's more purpose built than just the generic resources that you basically get. Let me pull one of these in. You basically get just, hey, the whole resource configuration. So similar to what you would do straight out of the template. So it's pretty bare bones. Let me delete this one. Components can only be deleted by removing their template code. Okay, so you can see the limitations around the non-enhanced components. These can only be deleted at this point, like this, right? So I think this is bidirectional. So at this point, when I deleted this, it shouldn't show over here. So maybe not as bidirectional. Initiate SAM sync. I want to see if there's a delete. I would have hoped it refreshed for me. So I'm going to close and reopen this just to get rid of that resource I don't want there. And we're back. Cool. So I got the API. So if we're following the framework here, we need to build an API according to this spec, right? So we need, I'll start simple with the get sessions. So it's this one. So /sessions, get me all the sessions. So what is a session in this framework? It's I've created a session and I'm tracking points for a session. And the idea is to, like, GPS points, right? Latitude and longitude, and tracking the points as they're moving along. So this is a way to get all the existing sessions, and those sessions will have their underlying points for. So if we go back to our API, we're going to do a get, and then you can specify the path, right? So we want get sessions. And again, I kind of want to show, you can go directly to DynamoDB, you can go to a Lambda function, but again, I want to showcase the the Workflow Studio capabilities. So once I have this, I'm going to close the resource properties, and I am going to look for a step function state machine. So I'm going to drag this over here. Oh, I need to press shift. So you see here, once you select this resource, we get the Workflow Studio. So first of all, I'm going to get this get here. Oh, and I did not press save. And let me see if it, yeah, so I lost that. So remember to press, I wonder if there's an autosave capability for here, and we'll look into that. Tour, how to deploy file, so no. But okay, so it is notifying me, I just missed it. So save, now I got the get sessions. I'm hooking it up to the state machine. Now, what I can do is open Workflow Studio. So this still within the same Application Composer tab kind of session that we have. And since we can, I will just do, let's say we're gonna do a DynamoDB get. So get item, it's not get item, it's a query because we're getting a list. So let's do query. Just come here to, oh, thanks, David. Nice to see ya. So I just forgot, I don't have my music. So I was looking at this and there's a feeding the ducks background music. So let's get that going. Should be nice. Cool. So I want the query for DynamoDB and it's not at the top. And now, yeah, it's going to be easier to go DynamoDB. Query, accelerator, no. Streams, no. DynamoDB update table. Where's the query? Is it good like this? Oh yeah, look, I can just filter more. So query, obviously we don't have a database table right now, so this isn't gonna work. So let's get that. So I'm gonna save this, it's probably, it doesn't complain, and go back to Application Composer. So here we have this, but we need a DynamoDB table. And here again, that's thankfully an enhanced component that I'm just going to drag and drop in here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit from the diagram just to make it kind of linear. And the query is going to go unsupported resource connection or unexpected parameter definition. So here, that's where it gets interesting. We need to do this. And we'll look at what it's generated. So we want to do the substitution from table name to, I think it's ref table. Is that our resource name? Okay, so let's save this. Table. So let's do, just to differentiate from such a generic name, session table. And here, I need a save. So it is preventing me from closing the window to protect me. And it moved. But here, it updated, right? So it's kind of updated the reference. So sort of like doing an F2 on VS Code to update all the references with the same name. So that's cool. And the substitution is table name. How is this visualized? I think it's the definition substitution strings. So here, definition substitutions, you can see we got table name, session table, which will give us the ability to do kind of the interpolation within our step function. So let's see if we can do this now. On Workflow Studio, I don't dismiss, go away. We got our query where we would want, and let me see if I remember correctly. table name. This would take care of the definition. And we don't have any inputs, so table name, query. I think that's all we need. Well, we'll need a session name. So we'll add the condition expressions and all that in a bit. Just want to make sure we can deploy this and work from it. Cool thing here, again, if you're like me or worked with a lot of step functions in the past, and sometimes it's just easier for you to do the definition, but you can see here, so parameters is table name, it's providing the table name as a substitution string and providing that query. So you can also see that this is read only, so you can't actually modify it unless you go into this code section where now you get the visual. Once it loads, maybe not. And this might be my connection. I'm not on a great connection right now. But we'll go back to design. We're doing this visually. So we got the table name, a query, and we'll need to define a partition we want to query for, which I would hope this was more optimized. And see if I remember key. Usually copy paste these nowadays. Query DynamoDB. Key condition expressions. So key condition expressions will do and from here pk equals pk. Let's just do that. Let's see if that works. And I'm going to save this. So again, this should have generated, and maybe it's inline. Session table, where's my state machine? Yeah, so the definition is all inline, right? So if you have structuring practices and all that, you might want to change this to, okay, now let me have a file, import the ASL here instead of having it all inline, because this might get tricky or to manage in the future. So we got a basic endpoint with some definitions and step functions. So we saw, hey, you can create the state machine directly here, modify its kind of definition. Let me return to App Composer. This doesn't seem to be hooked directly. So we'll just keep it like that. And again, how I've used it is I manually run sam sync, but I don't want to do anything manually. So I'm gonna just press the sync button here, and I expect it to fail right now because I need to authenticate. So once I do this, I've got the null check. So I'll just log in, and this is doing it via SSO. I have another tab over here where this popped open. I need it on a separate browser where I have, hold on, we'll do it again, where I have my password manager as an extension. So sync, authenticate, null check, open. It's not popping open. Come on. If I do another one, does it? Yeah. So let me do it the old-fashioned way. And let me go to my null check environment and do AWS SSO login. And again, going through the normal authentication flow here. Allow. I'm already signed in on this one, so we're good here. So now if I go sync, authenticate, let's see if it, why is it not liking it? 1 second. Maybe it's because I closed that tab and it needs to time out. Oh, let's reload this. Open App Composer. So that sync button, it's essentially what it's saying. It's running SAM sync. I don't want to tour. Okay. There we go. So now I'm logged in. I don't know, something got weird there with the session. So as always, US East, living on the edge. And select a stack or enter a name. So we want this to be App Composer GPS test. So it's going to create a new stack. I'm going to select an existing artifact bucket. I don't think you can create or enter a name to create one. Yeah, so you can create one. I already have one where I kind of send all my artifacts when I'm deploying for this sandbox. So, well, I have two actually. So let's go there. And it's syncing. So let me pop open CloudFormation at this point. Again, it's using SAM, which translates to CloudFormation. Hopefully it's going to the correct account, which it seems like I signed into another one. CloudFormation. So yeah, so here it is. I didn't spell composer right, but that's fine. So it's going in there, it's syncing this up, right? But again, I'm showing the console just to show CloudFormation, but you can see I haven't, to get it deploy or anything, it's been all through App Composer. So you can see it going here as if I had run SAM deploy. You can see all the SAM artifacts getting built, so you can see the built template, if they're cache or dependencies. So pretty cool, right? If you're barely getting started and you want to get an API that does something, right? I think the easiest route is to go to a Lambda function, but again, I want to showcase Workflow Studio. And when I'll do one that's a Lambda function just so you can see how it's creating all the resources for you. So this is done. What I would like here is for that it kept running like SamSync does. If you have autosave, SamSync kind of gets tricky. So we'll stick to the button right now since we're changing a lot of things. So one thing I learned yesterday. So I'm gonna close this. And I saw this open temp. No, that's not what I want. Open, what is it? Terminal. Where is it? Open terminal. Open. I'm gonna open no. Editor. Create new terminal and editor area. So I can open it right here. I will have to set my AWS profile. Yeah, so I'll set this to null check and SSO this terminal, and I'll keep this one so it's better visually for us instead of that little box at the bottom. Cool. So we're back there. So yeah, cool. So now we're here. We should get an API, right? And another thing that I don't use as often, but again, I want to stay in the IDE, see how far we can take it, is I'm connected here and I can see API gateways from stack, right? So here, I can copy the URL and I want prod. So now I got the URL and I have a Postman, and let me close, yeah. I got a Postman collection for what I did for Amped, so I'm gonna duplicate this collection. Duplicate. And I'll do a not print screen. Control E. This is GPS tracking App Composer, right? So can I duplicate? Edit. Can I duplicate environments? Duplicate. Sweet. And we'll rename this to App Composer, GPS tracking. And now we have a URL, right? So this is the base URL that we got from API Gateway. I'm going to save this and App Composer. So now I selected the environment and we did get sessions. That's the endpoint we built. Let's see how terribly it fails or works. Hopefully it works. So I'm going to send this and execution. It seemed to have worked. Let's go back to, let's see what else we can do from here. I know there's a log. So if we go to step functions, what is this name? Just state machine. So it's probably this one. This is where good naming. I thought we could look at logs or CloudWatch logs. Woo-wee, there's a lot. Lambda, what do we name this? App Composer. Math Operations Service. App Composer, vendor logs for states. Okay. So log streams. So here we got the logs. Obviously this is visually better to look at the execution from the console, but again, you can go here, look at all the logs. Let's see if I can Alt-Shift-F. No, I can't edit this. So you can, so you can keep track of the logs here, or you can use SAM to kind of tail the logs and all that fun stuff, but that's not part of this. So for this, we will go to our beautiful state machine and just look at it, how it looks in the actual console, right? So if you're troubleshooting, this is where we can see it actually failed. The cause, it's probably IAM related or my key condition. The first operand must be distinct from the remaining operand for the So yeah, this is where my copy pasting abilities are way better. So I'm gonna go to an existing project where I've been doing a lot of these just to get the syntax. So that's mostly on me. Where do I have this? And more projects. One sec. Boom, 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 boom. Can't find any of my repositories. And one thing I want to look at is if it actually added like the policies for this, create, so it did the log groups. Because still I'm expecting it to fail on the, so API, state machine, so it did create this log group for us. API to state machine rule. So this is allowing our API to trigger the state machine. That's because of the connection we added here. And it doesn't have the one for, one second. For the state machine to hit DynamoDB. So we'll get to that in a bit. For now, just trying to find an example of the key comparison expression. So let's do Control Shift F, query, and we'll look at ASL files. I'm just looking at an existing project. So it should look something like this. Workflow Studio. Let me get rid of this. This is too much blocking. And it should look something like this. Okay. I don't want the and begins with yet. So this is just a simple query where pk equals this, and then we have stuff. Don't judge me. My copy pasting abilities are excellent. And this. Usually try to use the expression attributes, names, and values. Okay. So we got pk equals pk, and let's just make this string a random string. Let's just do test session. So it's not JSON, so I'll remove the JSON path here. Let me bring back StreamYard in case I'm missing any comments. Nope, we're good. Okay. I think this is it. So let's save. That's saved. And we'll sync it again. Yes, and we should, now it shows here, right? And it's recently used, and it pops all the recently used stuff on top, which is convenient. So syncing the terminal, showing Samsung to it's, yeah, so that one's not going to open there. So I'll just, it's updating the stack, updating the step function, and that should be it. Yeah, clean in progress. So let me pop this to the bottom and go back to this. We should get a different error. Send. And we're getting this result because I'm not mapping anything back to API gateway. So this is kind of, hey, it's just proxying the response. API or step function, the state machine return a 200 with this data. It doesn't return the failed though, which is weird. But maybe now we get the permission error. There we got a second execution. If we go and look here, this is now what I expected. So it doesn't seem to be adding permissions. I truly don't know if that's a feature. So if anybody knows, let me know. We'll dig around a little bit here to see if there's something in there to do that for us. But let's see, if I right click, details, edit in Workflow Studio, it's a standard state machine. Definition substitutions. And this is what Lars was mentioning in his tweet, where, hey, this is awesome that the substitutions are now handled natively. But, oh, look, I didn't see this. And this is something I actually like to do. So I will check this for it to be a separate file. And let's see what it did. It created the state machine ASL. Nice. And now it should just be state machine. And here it is. It's just using the definition URI. This is a lot cleaner. And like for PRs, you're mostly just moving this, right? So here we can see our key condition expression and everything, which is super nice. But the policy doesn't seem to be there. So what I'm going to do, this is the API gateway policy. So it has this. So I'm just going to add a separate allow, and I'll do it myself, I guess. Well, maybe Copilot does something for me. Hold on. Where's effect? I don't. Go back. It's here. So I want effect allow. Oh, come on. Now this is just getting in the way. Effect allow action, and we want dynamo. Let's see if it assumes it. I don't want scan for oh man, it's moving my cursor for some reason. Resource, and there we go. Something effect allow action. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just, I like that it has tracing enabled by default, and it does take care of that as far as the policies go. And the logs, it does create its own log group. When using standard, you don't necessarily need the log group for the visuals. You do need it for Express, but it's still convenient if you want to do some troubleshooting or your CloudWatch insights or anything. You still want to pump them out to CloudWatch directly, because even though internally AWS keeps those logs in there for the visuals, you can't search them via CloudWatch or CloudWatch Insights or anything. So it's still convenient to have this pattern. This, I do have CFN lint installed, so that's why I'm getting these, which usually complains around update policy. I don't remember, but we'll keep the warning. I deleted something extra. Okay. So this is where it gets interesting, right? So we'll see if this syncs the whole template. Yeah, bucket. And at this point is where I like SAM sync a little bit more, right? I can have my SAM config toml with all this, the region and all that kind of stored there. So I don't have to keep entering it. And then you can keep SAM sync in the background, kind of live reloading everything for you. So I'll do that in a bit. I just want to get a successful request. We'll look at the IAM role here. Where this should get updated. So we can see it's updated already. And this is wrapping up. So you can see it updated the role because we changed that. So if you change the template that press the button, you'll get that update, which is nice. And moment of truth, session. Again, we'll get the same thing here, but we're tracking the successfulness from the step function. So let's go back and refresh. We should have a third, big should, execution, which we didn't. Oh, here it is. It took a sec there to get in there. It still failed. Miss key schema. So 400, we're doing something wrong in our, here, PK. Key condition expression. This is doing details. It is doing a query. Query condition miss key schema element. Let's just, guess I'm not as good at copy pasting. I do have that. Let's take another look. Key condition expression table, it resolved correctly. Expression attribute values. Okay, this is on the table definition. We don't have keys defined for our table, right? So if we go to DynamoDB here, let's just go to the resource, Dynamo. You define the keys and all that, which I'm guessing you can't do from App Composer. So if I look at like this one, document processing, you can see I have a partition key and this. So this one, it defaulted to ID with no sort key, which I do want a sort key based on what we need to do for this GPS stuff. So let's go back to App Composer and see, it did say it was optimized. Okay, so I just didn't, let's see if we can update this resource. So PK, it's a string, and SK, it defaults some stuff, but I'll just do SK. And this is, I'm assuming, the TTL set, which I don't want right now. TTL is the time to live. It's an attribute you can set for DynamoDB to automatically delete items. I don't want that right now. So with that, if we sync, yes, US East, App Composer, recently used. And once I get the SAM config, I want to see if App Composer reads that, right? So when I do the SAM sync, see if it reads the SAM config instead of asking me and prompting me. But let's get this updated. It's creating a new resource that's just basically, since we changed the keys. So basically what it was erroring out is that I was trying to query on a PK attribute name that didn't exist. So it was trying to, what existed got defaulted there as ID. I didn't see the defaults. But now we have our partition key and sort key. So it's deleting leftover stuff. I think we should be able, I'll just wait. Need to be patient. And it's updated. I can drop this terminal, go here, send, and execution history. We should have 4, maybe in a sec. Let's just do last day. This usually isn't that slow. Patience. Yay, it succeeded. So now we need to do some sort of mapping for the response. So again, this is where Lambda functions might be better, but we can see the output here. We got count, items, and scan count. Let me just, what did I hard code this to? So it's querying this test session. So let me add an item, create an item. Okay, I create a new table. So, oh, come on, refresh the whole page. Yeah. App Composer GPS tests. I want to create an item with this PK and this SK. So now if I run the same query, it's not going to return on the API. Again, I don't have the mapping for it to return, but in the next execution, the second successful one, we should wow, this is slow. Show it, there we go. So for this one, when we go to this, our output should have an item. Cool. So it's actually querying the table. We got the policies in place. We had to add the policy manually. So now let's see what we need to change for this to return something. So boom. I'm looking over here on my right for something, but give me 1 second. Mark for release complete. So I'm thinking this is something we need to do in API Gateway. Because if I were to trigger this from API Gateway directly, API Gateway, right? This is, I want to look at the response we're getting to see what we need to map. Deploy, it's already deployed, so test, we don't need anything. We're testing get session, so just test. This is endpoint request body, but the response, headers response body is just this. So I wonder, let's do this. So I'm going to go back to App Composer and the workflow, edit workflow. And then I'm going to add a, this is getting smaller and smaller. Control B, reduce that. So I'm just going to do a pass state, or even better. So let's look at this. We got the output transform with result selector, and we are going to get, and I am going to look at the response. This is part of where, but anywhere you would need to map the response, even if you're in a Lambda function. So if we go here, we got the output and we got just items, right? So if I go back, we can map transform with result selector, add original, because I think this is getting set as just result null. That's the default, so it's not taking into account anything from the result. So let's keep it simple, and let's just do add original input to output path. No. And there, since this is go to end state, 1 second. This is me just navigating the properties. Yeah, so let's just do transform. How do you set the result path? So result path, okay, yeah, so I'll just do this DDB result. And see, save this, return to App Composer, sync. And I have to select all these again. And this is just syncing the state machine. That's the only thing that changed. So that's the cool thing about SamSync. I see a lot of people complaining online, but I don't want to do a full deploy or anything. So I want to be able to debug everything locally. SamSync only updates the resources that changed, right? So it's doing hot swaps. Directly into your AWS account, making this a lot. You see, it didn't build anything. It didn't deploy the whole thing. It just did the step function because that's the only thing that changed. If you change the template, yes, it does an infrastructure change, but it's still a lot faster. If you're trying to reduce the amount of time in your deployment cycles for developers, this is the way to go. And you're using SAM. There's a similar, the CDK watch for any CDK users. So let's call this, I'm expecting that data to come back here, and it is not. So I wonder what do you have to do to return from a step function? Because if I go here, 1150, there should be one newer. Come on. There we go. So execution input, you can see the output is this, but okay, so now I do think it's on the API gateway. And again, this is because I know these things, but I'm not sure you would be able to figure this out just plainly from App Composer. So again, a tool is not going to replace your job. You still need some knowledge around there to kind of make it better. So if I go here, there's the integration response, and there's no mapping template. So it's just proxying. It's just pass through. I would expect it to just work. Let me see. Let me add a pass state where I kind of do the mapping. So open this again, Workflow Studio, and I'll add a pass. Where I'm just going to transform the input to where I have, my sessions. So I'll just do sessions equals, this is going to be a JSON path, and then we'll reference, go back here into our execution. So the output of this one, so I'll just do items, right? And again, we're exposing the partition key S key. You would want a better mapping here. So this is missing this closing statement. Save, return, sync. Yes, yes, yes. I'll keep trying to figure out output path 0. Okay, it's deployed. Let's try it again. Get sessions. So this is, why is it only? There's no way to actually do like the mappings from here. Oh, use external file for it. I'm gonna try this as well. Let's see if it does like a pure open API. It does. Okay, so that's nice too. So we get the open API. So here, for my sake, again, looking at an example, responses from here. But I want the integration. So here's the responses default. And I'm going to look at what it's getting returned here again. So test. We have no input. So the output response header, receive response. So how do you tell? Because clearly, oh, I'm just lost. Hold on. Method response, because we're just getting this and this, but we're not getting the actual response. So I'm going to do step function output to API gateway. Exactly what we're seeing. AWS are asynchronous and do not immediately return the result. I mean, we're running. Oh, that's why. So let's change. Yeah, so the standard workflows run asynchronously. So what we need to do is an express workflow, right? We're kind of doing this synchronously. So we need to change this to be, so let's look at the details. We can just switch this. And then let me save this. So now it will be synchronous And will this know to do that synchronously? Let's see if it changed anything. It's going to do start execution. So I'm going to do this here. So start sync. Well, this is my policy. So start sync. And then over here on the Open API, I'm going to change the URI of the action. And I can do a whole other session just on explaining how all these things tie together, right? Like the Open API, all the Amazon API integration stuff, how that ties back to the step function and all the proxy stuff. But now if I run this synchronously, let's save these two things and redeploy. So I think this should do it. Okay, so yeah, it should update API gateway and state machine. And again, since I changed, like I mentioned, since I changed the template, it does a broader deployment than if I just change like the Open API or the ASL. And we'll play around with that just so you can see that. It's updating the role so it can do the synchronous call. A deployment for API gateway. Almost done. Come on. It's taking a while. Should be fine to run it. So let's send. Assume role is not authorized to perform. Why did it still try to do the start execution? Or maybe because it's not finished. Let's try it again. Boom. Come on. Okay, let's see where it didn't fully get it. Because we did change this. So I think this is a good point for me. So I'm going to close App Composer. And now I'm going to do SAM sync, but first I'm going to do a SAM deploy guided to get the SAM config, right? So we were deploying this, and I'm going to get the variables we already had. So our stack name is this. It's US East 1. Confirm changes, no. Yes. No. Yes. SAM config toml, environment default, keeping it simple. But what this will do, it's actually going to trigger a deployment, but it created this SAM config for me. So it has the stack name. It's going to create a new bucket. That's fine. And the capability. So it didn't seem to pick up on the correct account. Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed. So kind of App Composer grabbed a different account for some reason since I selected null check, which is weird. So I'm going to switch over here. It's going to deploy a new one, and that's fine. I can clean all this up. And let's close all of this. And we'll go to CloudFormation, and we're going to have a new stack over here. And we'll pick up the API gateway. It's not created yet. And we'll go with SAM sync. I kind of like that route better. So why go the way that I don't like? Okay, so we'll get a URL. And this one should be prod. Oh, again, we can do that from over here. So let me go to AWS and let me switch connections. Connect, show, connect. And select null check. Okay. So if I refresh this, I don't want CloudWatch. Ugh. Let's kind of refresh this view. It's getting nasty. Okay. Is it this? So prod, but is it Q3E? Just want to make sure. No, it's still connected to the other one. So I'll just manually do this and reset my URLs to the new stack and get sessions. Okay, but you can see now it's trying to return something more than what we had before, right? Because it's now synchronous. So our path is failing, and you still kind of need the visual. It's a lot better. So let's do state machine, and we should have one execution right here. And we'll see, again, it's a JSON path. So the JSON path item specified for the sessions cannot be found. And this is where we can troubleshoot what's the input. Since I did the response mapping. So now it's DDB result.items. App Composer, go way back. And App Composer. Oh yeah, let me do SAM. So I like to get all these. So SAM sync. Let me see if I have an example. SAM sync. It's going to have all of these the same. And I'll do, that's fine. Save this. So now I'm going to do SAM sync. And it should pick up the SAM config toml. And we can just keep, I'm going to remove autosave because that gets crazy. Yes. I want to proceed. Build succeeded. So now it's running the deploy, the same stuff we've been seeing, but it's just going to keep running. Template haven't been changed since that deployment. Oh, come on. Okay, so I need an actual change. So state machine is going to be this. So remember, DDB result.items. So I'm going to save this, and how it should work. Yeah, so now it's syncing the step function. Cannot code sync for state machine due to definition field substitution. I have never seen this. Interesting. It's always worked. Okay, so we'll do it from here. Yeah, and it's going to change back. We'll just keep doing this one. I'm not sure why we're getting that error, but I don't want to hold us off on SamSync. So there goes. I need auto expand capability. So this is in the SAM config, and we add this and this. Save, there's no autosave anymore. It doesn't seem to take the SAM config. Build succeeded. Okay, so it's updating. We'll see if, yeah, so we need to change this one back. It was this one. Do get sessions, send. So we got the whole thing, right? Again, we need some mapping for this, because obviously you don't want to return this whole thing. And this is when you get to the, what do you call, the VTL, so that API gateway knows, hey, I'm getting this output, let me map it. So let's do that. And again, I'm going to pull from an example that I have. So let me look for sync execution. Start sync. Here. So this is the request template. I don't care for the request template, but I do care for the response template, right? So we're going to go back to the API. We got the request template, right? So it's saying, hey, just provide the whole input. The name of the execution is going to be the request ID. So if I added more things here, it would take it. And state machine is doing the substitution from over here, right? So it's taking the state machine and it's doing a ref. For our response, so we got credentials, URI, responses, we got default. I'm just going to do for when it returns 200. Here, we're going to return a 200 response template, application JSON, and sort of like this. So input, I want here, parsed output is going to be, there's a util here to parse that. Util parse, and this is VTL. Again, whole other session to get into this one. Path, and we know it comes out in the output. That's what we saw. So we can try this. And then remove this one and save. Let's see if it syncs. So what it's telling it is I want to return this JSON object that will have an output, which is the parsed output attribute from the endpoint. So if we look at the get sessions, we got this output. So it's parsing this JSON and returning it. So hopefully this triggers an API gateway. Yeah, so it is updating API gateway. So infra, get sessions. Maybe it's taking a second. Come on. I don't think it did it. So no, that's not what I wanted. So we're using this one. So let me do AWS login, SSO login from this one and run samsync there. Check if there are any comments. Very terrible language. Yeah, so Danielle, VTL stands for very terrible language, right? Yes. It's tough. I use it very often, but in simple ways, kind of like this, right? You're just parsing some JSON, sending it back. But if you have like optional fields and all that, it becomes pretty bad, pretty bad. That's why like AppSync got the JavaScript resolvers. Previous to that, it was just VTL. That wasn't very nice. I feel like it's not nice because I use API Gateway, but it's nice for AppSync. But let's try samsync. I've had very good success with samsync. So it's pulling that, signing profiles, null. Okay, so now it's actually doing it. Because this kind of picks up all the files. App Composer, I don't know if the bidirectional updates are always there, but you can see I can run samsync and I can tell it in my sam config that when I run samsync, I want watch equals true, right? So when I run this here, or I could just add the flag here, but I like to keep it in my sam config because I always forget, like I just did. So it's going to keep updating as you go. So build succeeded, SAM deploy, templates haven't changed, skipping infra, it's missing for API, skipped infra, right? So now if I go, again, this is always listening. So if I were to change here, I want to deploy Andres Moreno and save this file, it should trigger an update. It's not doing it for APIs. But nonetheless, we're going to go look at the resource here, the get, and the response should have, it doesn't have a mapping template. What the hell? So this is still not going to have it. Oh, look at that. It kind of did it. Oh, I hate when this happens and I never have the answer to how to make it true JSON. So what did I do? This is the wrong project. Input, output. So we got input parse JSON from this. So I wonder if we just do this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Where's my API? It's two parentheses. So I'm just going to do SAM deploy myself. SAM deploy. Might not be watching. So this is where I might switch it back to be in the definition so it updates whenever there's a template change. It doesn't seem to pick up the API. I know it does for the ASL. And we don't need to build. There's no Lambda functions or anything, so I think we're fine. I always panic. I see the red, but it is because it's deleting the deployment resource. So don't panic. And at this point, it's just parsing things. Again, this is not natively supported. It doesn't feel like it's natively supported within App Composer. Maybe here we get the same thing. SAM build, SAM build. Maybe we do need to build. SAM deploy. Okay. We'll keep moving. I mean, we got the get sessions. It's returning something from it. At this point, you would consume it and probably parse it yourself. But if you wanted more things, right, it's the here. Let's do the post, right? And let's do that one with the Lambda function. So if I go here, details, I can go add a route. That route is going to be a post session. So we want to create a session. Okay, so I'm going to save this. We get the post sessions, and I'm going to add a Lambda function. Oh, I need to press Shift. Lambda function that I'm going to hook this endpoint to. Right? So what we get on the template is we got the sessions table. So we got this Lambda function that's serverless. It's got a description, the code URI. So it added this source functions folder with some code. It probably also added to the policy here. So let's look at assume role, execute state machine. So it's not adding to this. So again, it feels like the IAM integration here still would need, no, that's not what I want. Effect, allow, no action. It is Lambda invoke, and we want it to be able to invoke our function. It doesn't feel like it has the IAM policies getting created natively, which would be nice. That's something people struggle with a lot, to know, hey, I need this. Which, now that I think of it, might get taken care of differently. So I'm going to remove it just to verify that. Where's our Lambda function? So function, code URI, it has the events, and I think this adds that. So let's hope that's correct. And let's see if it modified. It didn't modify. Oh yeah, so it did add this for the post. So you can see it's just a AWS proxy to this function. Not a lot to it. It's missing most of the open API niceness, right? Where you would define, hey, this has a request body that looks like this, right? And for now, we can make it schema, yeah, type, object. And the cool thing here is that API Gateway takes care of generating the models for this and validating that it's actually an object, not an array and stuff like that. I'm not going to do this. I'm getting motivated to do a stream just on that, or a video to show how API Gateway can connect to different things and how you can add to API Gateway, not just a Lambda proxy. But here, API Gateway is a little bit special where, yeah, we'll just do hello from Lambda. So we'll save the, not X, save this, save the template, and SAM deploy. It's good that it adds a function loop group, so log group. So if you've used Lambda before, you know, hey, oh, it's awesome. It generates a log group for you when it gets invoked, and you'll get the logs, right? They're going to be there. But if you don't create it yourself, those log groups live forever, unless you have some process that goes, cleans up, or adds expiration dates to any log groups that have a retention period of infinity. If you define your own log group and you manage to get to a point where you need to delete a stack, it will delete the log group. In the other case where it's created on the spot, on the fly by the Lambda, it will not get deleted and it will live in CloudWatch forever. But we got an error here, so let's see. Reason, instance, references, invalid resource, function, sub. So let's look for function. So something, reference, something incorrectly. So this is the sub. It should work. So let's do create session function. We'll need to, I can't spell function. Create session function. We'll need to change this here, the mapping. And I'll save this. And then down here, I don't know if it's a update. I hate those, all the lines. Delete, I want delete. I don't want to retain it. Delete. Let me try this. What? Okay, I'm just gonna keep it like this. For expression, fn sub references invalid. Resource ARN, where are we? Session stable state machine. Okay, so it is with this. So should it be, no. Is it something like this? It's kind of what we're doing here. But I just want the resource name. Let's just create session function. We'll just hard code it and see if it's that. It is that, so it's not resolving correctly. Nope, still create session ARN. So it's not liking something here. So let me do invoke. So it wasn't this one. It's in the API. Create session function ARN. So it's here. Create session function. Down there. What to create here? Create session. API include, it should work. ARN, and I'm looking here, comparing to something. ARN, partition, API gateway, region, Lambda path, 2015 functions. Create session function, which is exactly the one we're looking at. What changed? One other gripe is that it removes, like if you have it structured where you have like separate a line, and that App Composer will remove those lines. So it just always moves it. Why? Create session. SAM build maybe? Yeah, I think need a SAM build. Oh yeah, because now I have a function. It doesn't exist. What a dummy. So now we can do SAM deploy. Come on. So yeah, we haven't gotten so far, too far yet. So it feels good to like start a template and all that. Just having a tough time kind of like, hey, extending it a little bit more. Like again, if you're doing like a direct integration, it seems perfect for this API gateway Lambda situation, but other more complicated routes, it's not moving so nicely. It's taking a bit longer, but it's doing a lot more, right? Since now we have this function, not a lot more, but some more. So now we should have the post, right? The post is not actually saving anything, but if I were to go post, did I add the path? So here, API sessions, yeah, the post is under sessions path. So it follows the pattern we need, which is create session. So send, we should just get missing authentication token. People, we did not add authentication to this API. 403 usually means to me that the path does not exist. So if I refresh here, yeah, right. So it didn't seem to catch on the post. So I'm going back to the template and I'm going to minimize most of these things. We have the API. Again, we don't have any security on it. But if we do here, events, API post sessions, it has post to sessions, and it's doing the API. So it is hooked up, and API is our API. So this is our serverless API. Let me save this. Then if we do API YAML, we have the post with responses. This is the get, right? So just making responses has 0. And we don't need this, all this stuff, because it's so I'll just do, maybe it's something related to this, 200. Well, let's just keep it simple. Save, SAM build, SAM deploy. I don't know if not having responses is part of the problem. Again, the App Composer didn't seem to add that for us. So maybe when it may, I don't know if this, let me go look if it's an optimized in the enhanced. Yeah, so API gateway is in the enhanced. It feels like it could have a bit more. You can add, I did see like method here, right? So you can add the API gateway method, but that's just the raw basic resource, right? So you have to still add the whole YAML yourself. So SAM build, SAM deploy. Hopefully this updates our API gateway resource. So it is, where are you? Updating API, it's rating the function log group. Okay. So we should see it now. Come on. It is done. It is done. So it doesn't feel like it's picking up on the post. If I go back here, it is here. Let me close it and reopen it. App Composer. It's there. It's hooked up to this. So let's try it this way. Not sure why it's not liking. Just check that we're in the correct account. So it's 965911. That's why. It switched account on me? Or did it create a new one? Where's API? Yeah, my sessions seem to be, because it did this one, and right now I'm on another one. It seems to be flipping weird on my sessions. So on this one, so this one has it, right? So let me get the URL. Base URL, go back to Postman, edit, wait, that's the one I have. Okay. So create session. Now it's there. Hello from Lambda. All that beautiful stuff. So now can we hook up the Lambda directly to DynamoDB here? And does it add code for us? Doesn't seem like it. That would be nice. Let's see. Yeah, that's not. Okay, so here, let's just tell Copilot query using DynamoDB from AWS SDK v3 in JavaScript. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. That's not a query. Query using the query command. Let's see if I change this to query command. Params. Boom. Data, and then we'll return this data equals data. We'll return from in here. Cool. This is not our table name, so we would add the environment variables and all that, but we know the table name right now is, where's DynamoDB? Explore this. This is our table name. And then key condition expression, PK is PK. PK is a string, and we'll look for test session. Wait, this is not a query. This is a post. Do a put item command to the DynamoDB table using AWS SDK v3. So this is put item command client. We don't want the region, it just works. And we'll go from this. We don't have the try catch. Params, command, put item command. We'll wait, console log data, and then we'll have inputs. We'll just provide the event body. So now we'll do how you get the event body. It's const body equals this. And then the body will have, let's just say we're providing the ID for now. So body.id, and then part of the requirements are, I guess we can take it from here, that we're taking in a name, right? So we've got a name, and this is body.name. This will add the item, and we'll return this. Remember, it's a post, and we'll do ID equals body.id. We'll just do that. Save. SAM build, SAM deploy. We obviously don't like these comments. And yeah, something that would be cool, I use templates a lot, right? And templates I've built myself, where I kind of have my standards, right? So it's like including power tools, and injects sort of some specific attributes to the logs based on the layer I'm using and all that. If this could be started with like the best practices from AWS, right? So that it has kind of the logger and traces and stuff like that when you import a Lambda function, that would be super cool. SAM deploy. And while this is going, we'll start seeing a few more things. Update, finish this. Okay, so it's there. Let's see, if we do this, and again, we said we're going to be providing the ID, so let's start with ID 1, right? So if we send this, we get our ID back. If we get sessions, we should get an error occurred. Session, again, that did not update. So again, now we're just working with the resources directly. We're not going through App Composer. And it seems like at some point App Composer updated my ASL or something where, let's see if SamSync works now, where it kind of reverted this change that I had already done. So you got to be careful with bidirectional communication, because it seems like App Composer takes precedence when you're syncing. So just to make sure all that works for you. Build succeeded. Hopefully, yeah, it's working now. So SamSync will be running. So I'll remove, I already removed autosave. So now my iteration should be faster, but we're getting close to the end here. Okay, so you can see it should, yeah, so it's still listening. So you'll see if I do some other changes. So now let me query, and here it is, right? So we get our test session. Obviously it's not parsed or anything. But you get a sense of the communication here. So let's just try and get another piece. And again, it seems like it's better or easier. So we saw how you can manipulate, but once you get into VTL land, it gets a little bit crazy. So I'm gonna take our query here, just copy this because I'm gonna be using it. But I'm gonna replace, so let's go back to App Composer. I'm gonna replace my step function, delete, with a second function. And let's see how it names it, right? So lambda function, shift. And the bug there seems to be like an update with a VS Code update messed up something with the interface here. So this is get sessions function. Save, we'll hook it up. And then from that, we'll go back. And you can see it's saving a bunch of stuff already. So it's failing. It seems to still be looking here for state machine, right? This doesn't exist. I think the YAML, yeah, so the ASL is null. So it had some issues there while trying to update. So I'll just remove them manually. Save. And you can see it's automatically using SamSync to update my stuff. We should have the get sessions function with the API get over here. The get is now tied to this. It did not update the folder name, which is unfortunate. And then we'll do the same, right? This is kind of something that people always leave. This is where I recommend Power Tools, that it's just a configuration that you set when you're initializing the logger. Do a query command. So sort of the same thing. And I'll just do let data return 200 data items, right? So it's doing the query, it's returning that here. Again, we'll hard code our session table. ID is going to come, there's no ID. So we're just doing a query. How do we structure this in the amped example? Because I don't want to do a scan. So I'll just do PK for this is session pound. We'll leave it like that. And then this is our query. Our post, we'll do it where This is weird that this worked. The post will be this table name, where this would be pk equals, let's just do the hard-coded session, pound. Again, you probably don't want to structure your data like this. SK is the ID of the session, and then we'll just have name in the body. So we'll save this one. You can see it's updating our create session. And I have done, I'm doing this now with ESM. It's a lot faster when syncing the functions. So I do recommend that, and kind of affects how you structure your project to see how much it has to do around NPM. So we get the session. Now it should be doing the Lambda function. So we messed up something in the response. But if we do the create session, it's now doing the Lambda function as well. So let's do 2. And let's see, I think we can use the toolkit here. Yes, USEs, CloudWatch, Lambda. And it is my get sessions, log stream. And for here, I don't want the put. I want this one. Data items. It should be logging the data items already, so let's look at that. I don't think it's this one. I don't want this PowerShell anymore. Let's make this smaller, even remove it. So this is the event. And it doesn't, maybe it's missing an await or something. It's doing the await, it's async. Query command, data, console. Console log. Hello from here. This is how I debug, by the way. So load newer events. We'll see if we get more. So if let's see if it's doing it. I'm doing the create. Let's do the get sessions. See if this is getting. Okay, so now that it finished updating. What? Oh well. This is just coding. It's not so much what I was trying to show around App Composer and Workflow Studio. So I'll wrap it up. So let me get my screen off and kind of summarize what we did, right? So what I wanted to get today is this App Composer and Workflow Studio, kind of pairing together, running it locally. We kind of got there, and kind of you can see the limitations. Again, it's usually what you see from low-code platforms and stuff like that, where it gets a little bit more complicated when you're trying to extend it using the tool. So you'll still find yourself digging into the template, the ASL, trying to kind of make it yours, right? So again, it's generated, so it's opinionated based on the App Composer team and AWS and all that. So you'll still have to give it your flavor. We got stuck on a few pieces, the bi-directional communication between my actual text file and App Composer feels a little bit broken, and I don't know at what point will it refresh back to my template. Initially, the first time I tried this, I thought the sync button was going to sync back to my template. So maybe figuring that out, and maybe that's just part of my ignorance in with this tool. We were able to easily get something deployed, right? And that's kind of what I think the major win here is. If you're trying to get into creating a new application using serverless technology, this is a good starter, right? If you have no idea how a template looks, what needs to be there, this helps. If you're trying to find out what properties something needs, I would look into the optimized component, or what do they call them? The enhanced components, because those are purpose-built. They have extended configuration fields to let you know what you can configure. I sort of already do that regularly with Workflow Studio. It's like I'm using a new resource, and if it's optimized, I'm just going to create a new workflow from the console or VS Code, drag and drop a component, and look what fields it needs, and then pull that JSON out and put it in my template or my Amazon state language file. So it does feel useful. I wasn't able to achieve much in 2 hours, right? Again, I got stuck with synchronizing with my account. I think something with my credentials manager got wonky there, where it was sort of flipping between the accounts I was deploying to. So I'll need to verify that. That might be a thing on my end. But if it is simple to deploy something, I still think it needs some work there. And honestly, I think it's the more we use it, the more feedback the team can get to make it better, right? But these are the types of tools that not a lot of people know exist, so I recommend people to try it out. Let me know how it goes. If you have any feedback, or we can reach out directly to the App Composer team. But I think we need to leverage it to get into a feedback cycle so we can make it better for us. And again, there's a lot of focus right now on the developer experience from the AWS side. So I think this tool will grow and get better with time. We just need to just start using it more and exploring its capabilities. But with that, I am ready to go to lunch, but I'll let y'all go. Thank you for joining me. Remember, a lot of things lined up next week, some good talks. The theme this month is all about APIs. So APIs are a big thing that we use every day, whether it's REST, GraphQL, gRPC. So getting the experts to explain how they work, how they use them, is going to be awesome. So I'm very excited for all the talks we have this month. But with that, I'll wrap it up. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you later.